We always talk about the hypocrisy of the Republican Party on this show, but I think the hypocrisy of MAGA can be perfectly summed up in one event that Donald Trump held today, and that was a faith-based town hall in Georgia in which Donald Trump was asked questions about Christian values. Yes, that Donald Trump asked about those Christian values. Two things that could not be farther apart, demonstrating the hypocrisy of MAGA. Now, of course, whenever Donald Trump has to open his mouth, it is bound to backfire. And so we could expect from the jump that this town hall was not going to go well. But especially, we could predict it was going to be pretty poor because Donald Trump was asked questions about faith, about religion, about Christianity. And whenever that happens, he just kind of flails around. And that is what ended up happening on stage, not only because Donald Trump's a mess, but because when he was asked these simple questions, it was so funny. You could see the voters up on stage with him not only realize that he didn't care about Christianity at all, but also that he's kind of just stupid. And we see more of those realizations at Donald Trump's town hall as he becomes more in cognitive decline. And we are going to get into all of that. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to hit that subscribe button and leave a like on this video, it really goes a long way and it means the world to me. Now let's get into some of this town hall.
Not just every other day, but every hour on the day. How do you lean into your faith and your family to deal with this? Because I don't think anybody else could handle it the way you have for the past decade.
Well, I say this, faith, when you have faith, when you believe in God, it's a big advantage over people that don't have that. It's a big advantage. And when you have a great family, my son Eric is with us, that he's been great, but we have such a great family and such a strong backing. And Melania, our First Lady, has been great. She's got the #1 best-selling book. Can you believe Melania? So go buy the book. But I will say this, I've been investigated more than any human being, I suspect, in the history of our country, more than Alphonse Capone. Did anyone ever hear of Alphonse? Al Capone was the gangster of all gangsters, Scarface, commonly known as. I've been investigated more than Scarface. My father's looking down from heaven. I think my father's in heaven. I know my mother's in heaven, but
I would first like to start by pointing out that there is no they who shot Donald Trump. The two attempted assailants were former Republicans, one of which who had voted for Donald Trump. So there's no they. There's no blame this on the Democrats. We always have to start from that position. But also, Donald Trump was asked about keeping his faith, what should be a really just straightforward, easy question for any sane, competent person. Of course, that doesn't describe Donald Trump in any way, but what did he choose to do? Instead of giving some sane answer, he just started rambling, as he always does. He is incapable of just giving a regular thought because they don't exist in his brain anymore. That's so clear in this clip right here.
Like that, you know, you hear the word groceries, you say, really? But I get more complaints about groceries, everything from hot dogs to bacon and eggs and everything. So what we're doing is, and what they've done is they screwed up our energy. We had energy.
What a weirdo he is. People are dealing with the rising price of groceries, and Donald Trump's solution is what? To say that it's weird that people use the word? Well, Kamala Harris's solution is to fight price gouging. Two very different people. Donald Trump will just talk about eggs and bacon. Kamala Harris has a solution, but Donald Trump isn't actually caring about solving any of these problems. We know that to be true. All he wants is the praise and to complain. And speaking of wanting the praise and also complaining at the same time, Donald Trump brought up a very good friend of his who praised Donald Trump, and Donald Trump likes to complain about, and we can see that right here.
A little bit. One thing, if I could, somebody that a lot of people respect a lot, Viktor Orban from Hungary. So he's the prime minister, and he made the statement. He said, when Trump comes back as president, everything's going to be perfect. And it was for 4 years. And I know exactly what he was talking about.
I think it is so important that during the presidential debate, Kamala Harris didn't just bring up the fact that Donald Trump praises dictators, but he is always so easily swayed by them. Any little compliment will make Donald Trump love a person and essentially give his loyalty to them. And so what he is demonstrating when he's talking about how Viktor Orban said Trump would fix everything, isn't that leaders on the world stage believe Donald Trump is the solution to global conflict? No, Viktor Orban and Putin and Xi and any other dictator who would exploit Donald Trump wants him to be president for that reason, so they can exploit him because they know how easy it is to do. because he's not a smart person. And even the voters there to support Donald Trump can see that when he was asked a question by an evangelical voter, the answer he gave, you'll see why it was so weird, but it just got strange.
We're praying that the Lord will deliver you back in the White House very soon. Amen.
Thank you.
Just recently, a study came out from Arizona Christian University showing that 32 million Christian Americans will not be going to the polls to vote this year. If you could share a final message to those Christians to encourage them to go to the polls, what would your message be?
Well, you know, it's interesting, Matthew, that if you look over the last 30 years or so, for whatever reason, Christians are not tremendous voters in terms of percentage. If they were, we'd never lose an election. We wouldn't have had these people in office, and we would never lose an election. And I think they are. I think we've really energized a lot of people this time because they've seen how bad it is. This last 4 years it's been a horror show, an absolute horror show. And I think we're going to see those numbers go way up. I'm almost sure of it, and I'm even hearing that from statistically because you see what's coming in. And by the way, record numbers of votes are coming in, so that's supposed to be a good thing for us. And we have to make sure too big to rig. We want to make it too big to rig, right? But if they did, we would literally never lose an election. And you know, there's persecution going on, and especially, I don't know if you've heard, with Catholics. I don't know what's going on with Catholics. Why are they after Catholics? But the Catholics are being persecuted. School boards are being persecuted. Parents. This group is not a nice group of people. You know, you think they're stupid, and they are really pretty dumb. But when you look at what the policies, what they've done to this country, but they're vicious people. They're vicious, vicious people.
So in classic Donald Trump fashion, he is asked to give an encouraging message to Christian voters, and instead he goes right to fear-mongering. And it's so funny that he brings up the persecution of Catholic Americans, which is not happening at all, and certainly isn't happening under President Biden's administration. President Biden, who's a Catholic president, but Donald Trump clearly doesn't know the difference between any of the sects of Christianity. He does not know the difference between evangelicals and Catholics, and just a strange thing to say at a rally of evangelical Republicans. Again, he cannot answer questions. He has no understanding of any issues, of any substance. And speaking of being unable to answer questions, his MAGA stooges haven't been able to answer questions either, especially when asked about Donald Trump's enemy from within comment. And we can see that right here.
Timing on this is questionable. What is clear about why Kelly has said this now, or really reiterated it, confirmed it, is that he has a lot of concerns about Trump talking about this enemy within, this idea of using the American military to target his own political opponents, which is a very un-American idea, and that is something, that's the timing. To your timing question, that's the answer there.
Well, perhaps. I don't know John Kelly. I don't think I've ever even met him. He clearly has a deep disdain for Donald Trump and was fired by him. You also have the owner of the Atlantic magazine is a huge donor for Kamala Harris and a close personal friend. So I find that incredibly interesting. And on this kind of enemies within, what President Trump actually said was, if we have national unrest, if we have riots, if we have people and law and order is broken down, then it is completely appropriate to use the military. The National Guard has been used throughout our history.
He has named the Pelosi's congressman. He has named your colleague Adam Schiff.
You had Adam Schiff on this network and many others lying to the American people, opening a hearing lying to the American people, saying that he had seen, but you raised him.
And saying
he had saying he had seen evidence of Russian collusion that proved to be false, and our country was in total chaos for 2 years on a hoax, which also affected our relationship with Russia. So that is an enemy within. And I don't think that he said that he's going to use the military to target him. He said in one part of the conversation, we have to quell riots and keep law and order, and if the military needs to support law enforcement, fine. And on the other hand, he said we have people that are misleading the American public, that's causing chaos.
I just want to be clear.
I hope you can roll the
He's talked about the tape. He's talked about the National Guard, and then he talked about the military.
But let's go back to
now, while Republicans try to evade this question, while they try to do everything they can to make sure they don't have to answer for Donald Trump's evil and angry rhetoric, Kamala Harris is calling it out directly, as she should. She's doing a great job doing so because we need to focus on what Donald Trump's presidency would be all about, himself and his retribution. Donald Trump, as we always say, is not running for you. We know that to be true. He's running for himself. He's running for his rich friends. He's running to avoid prison, and he's running for Putin. That's exactly what Kamala Harris was calling him out for right here.
This is a window into who Donald Trump really is, from the people who know him best, from the people who worked with him side by side in the Oval Office and in the Situation Room. And it is clear from John Kelly's words that Donald Trump is someone who, I quote, certainly falls into the general definition of fascist, who in fact vowed to be a dictator on day one and vowed to use the military as his personal militia to carry out his personal and political vendettas.
It's the simple case. This is a crazier and more dangerous person than ever. They need to be called out, both him and his defenders, every single day. And we're going to be doing that on this show. If you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button. You can leave a like on this video. And if you stuck around to the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.